I have various things to read and present, and we're going to learn about the different aspects of the being when it comes to the perceived and what is being perceived, and understanding how your individual consciousness utilizes these different functions in order to have an experience of life, and why that takes place, and what we can do with it, and what the ancients kind of taught us to do with it, and what has been long forgotten due to the separations that religious separation, secular conditioning has kind of taken us away from the inner journey. So just to go over some things to ponder. So throughout the day-to-day of life, we can live unconsciously. We have dreams and do things without consciousness. So essentially, there is the opportunity to live your life from day to day in an unconscious way. And usually from like the age of like 14 to about 18, we reach like a kind of an unconscious state in our teenage years. But some people never come out of that unconscious state. And the human condition is supposed to continually evolve consciously, but we're being attacked from all ends, conditioned through school, through society, through the entropic forces, the inorganic forces that are basically making it so that we don't live consciously. So another thing to recognize is that you do have dreams and do things without consciousness. So it is possible to dream and end up doing things in the dream and you're not even conscious of it. So like that could be very troubling when we don't have the control that we're supposed to have. So from this awareness, so at your base state, we are pure awareness. Now, this is coming at it from the duality of Gemini, because we have to understand that consciousness and awareness are actually two distinct things. Awareness is like the base state, and then consciousness is like the secondary illuminating force that shines light on itself. So at your highest state, you're pure conscious awareness. At the kind of base state from our evolution, spiritual evolution, we're just like awareness. Think of like crystals or the mineral kingdom, and how they would kind of just be like kind of like a bliss awareness type. And then from that awareness, we form that higher levels of consciousness, just using it as a metaphor. So through consciousness, we can actually increase our awareness. And the merging and rounding out of both of them is the great work of alchemy. And this gives birth to that super consciousness. And that super consciousness would be like the father or the mother, the highest aspect. It's like the super soul that emanates and creates all the individual super souls that manifest the Adam and Eve monads that we all are. So we manifest as those. So we can actually exercise this, because once increased, consciousness can be taken to the realm of dreams, and one can have conscious actual experiences in those realms. And in order to utilize these different aspects, we have to become aware of a couple of things from a day-to-day basis. So when we exercise the pineal gland, one of the best ways to do that is through the power of self, just self-reflecting. Every moment being like a self-reflective state of being. And by doing that, you'll actually be able to, being in that state of being, takes you to like a 0 point energy, which is your center, which would be to me like the center of the sine wave of the line. And from that point, you can witness your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors as if you were not, that you're actually like from a third person perspective. So you have the witness that is perceiving the being. So you're seeing your Malkuth ego, your entity, the name, the form, the physical body. Then you have the witness that's watching that. And then above the witness is the being. See, a lot of people stop at the witness or stop at the mind. The truth is, the being uses the intelligence and the mind, but the being is above it. The soul is above the intelligence is above the mind is above the emotions are above the body. So this is how consciousness becomes dense, and then this is how we become awakened by becoming subtle. So a few things to know is the fact that these two aspects are the masculine and feminine raised of the eternal deity. So we have Purusha, which is spirit, person, or self, the Atman, the being, Adam Kadmon, the physical, spiritual aspect. When we say physical, we mean not physical, but it is the spiritual aspect. Then we have the Prakriti, which is the divine feminine aspect. And that's where we have form, separation. We have the four elements. We have our mind. We have the three states of consciousness. And we have to start to learn to differentiate between the being, the self, the Purusha, the spirit, the atom within you, that is unmanifest spirit. And then you have to differentiate that from what it is experiencing in the field. And that field is all of the eternal manifestations of the uncreated realm. So let's say you have a table or a lamp, or we have people, we have the sun, the moon, the planets, we have the waking state, but then we go to sleep and we go into the realm of dreams, and then we go to the dreamless state. We have to recognize that all of that is the feminine, divine mother, Prakriti, manifested energy. And then the person that's watching it, or the witness, is the individualized ego that sits and watches all of it aloof, completely aloof. It is unaffected by matter. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, there's no one slain when the body is slain. The slayer slays not. Like this, the eternal spirit within never comes in contact with these elements. But the problem is we become bottled up in them, and in a way that we feel that we're identified, and we lose contact with the inner witness. And that inner witness is our inner navigator. So we have to learn how to activate that inner navigator. One technique is to always, a good sadhana or spiritual practice is to have your energy and gaze just slightly at the horizon for the most part of your day, because this is where that unmanifest Brahman is kind of like Bluetooth connected to your physical being. See, it's not actually manifest within it, but it's like connected to it. So when you take your physical energies and your mind and place your attention there, you are automatically bridging a gap between the physical realm and the unmanifest realm. So that is actually a sadhana in and of itself, because that's going to create a magnetic pole center to pull up the magnetic fluids up into the brain. And then when you have your brain nourished, you'll refrain from negative behaviors. These negative behaviors can not only harm ourselves, but harm others. Humans are very apt to function from the lower part of their brain, which gives them like an animal consciousness, which is very automatic and insincere and sense gratifying, and it only looks out for itself, and it can actually be very aggressive and have a lot of things that will get in the way of the progression of the spirit. But the soul uses those animal forces and those animal impulses to create the raw energy to actually resurrect from the dead. So that's the mysteries of Easter. We're resurrecting from the dead. We are in the physical bodies, which is the lowest point of the manifestation of spirit. And just like when you throw like a ball up really high and then it reaches its highest point, stops and comes down, this is kind of like the lowest point down before it goes up. So think of it like a yo-yo.
Welcome to Prisca Theologia. Today we're going to be discussing how the soul simultaneously exists within multiple realms of existence at once, and how to navigate and to travel between these two realms of existences. So every day in the waking state, when we wake up, we have the sense of I am that is bestowed upon us, and we move and we have our being, which all has to do with the sine wave, and how from the monad, the dyad is projected the two, and that energy that's projected into redshift, blue shift starts at Aries and produces this 12ness. So instead of like a duality within this duality, this dualistic spectrum, we have the 12. And within this 12, we have the 12 zodiac, with which each gives us a particular function of intelligence, similar to a flower, like the petals on a flower. So you have the flower, the middle of the flower, and then the 12 petals, which would be the 12 qualities that blossom from that occurrence that takes place. So within this dimension, we have the waking state, where we go about as a conscious individual entity, contracted or contracted to a physical body or an individualized physical organism, which is a machine that is manifested from all the five elements. So space, fire, water, earth, air, all comes together to form a vessel, which a particular I am consciousness is attached to. So one realm that you exist in is the physical waking state. A second realm that you exist in is the astral state, or the emotional state, where you have, you could take off in a daydream. You're taking off on trips. You're doing all different things within your realm of being within yourself that actually has its own light. It has its own sun. It has its own sidewalks. It has its own beings, its own characteristics, but it's more subtle and outside of the physical dimension. However, it's a reflection of the physical dimension, similar to like water, the reflection of the sky. So that astral realm, you're always living in it from every moment of your life. Even right now in the waking state, there's a part of you that's coexisting in the astral plane. And you can tone into this by tapping into your filling in your heart chakra, or when you're doing mantra magic, like with the vowel ah as in ah, that internal breath, that that vocal sound will help tap you into your astral realm. So you're living in the waking state. Even while you're awake, you're coexisting in that astral space. Now, when you go to sleep, you're going to be shutting down from the waking state. It's going to become numb. The waking state gradually disappears. And between those states of consciousness, the witness, or the being that you are, slowly slips into the astral plane, which you already were coexisting in, but now the conscious focus has changed. And now you're now in the astral dimension. When you're in the astral dimension, you lose your discrimination. So you can't necessarily choose. Your sense of control is gone. So you have to awaken that sense of control and that discipline here in the conscious waking state, while you have the I am intact with the human body, to be able to gradually strengthen that nerve, or strengthen that spiritual nerve or muscle, to be able to carry over to the astral plane, so that you can take that discriminatory factor to the astral plane. Why do we need to do this? So that we can extract information about our being, our purpose, and why we're here from the astral dimension, and bring it to the waking state intact. Usually when we wake up from a dream, we lose all the important information that we had. And in that state of unconsciousness, we come on and we wake up and we continue another dream in the waking state, which is just a more dense dream reality, but it is collective amongst other souls. So Marsilio Ficino, one of the greatest syncretists ever, of the 14th century, he wrote that the physical dimension is how the spiritual dimension is seen and how it's communicated with. So simply understanding natural phenomenon, like understanding the seasons and the cycles of the day, like the sun comes up at 6 o'clock, it reaches its highest abode at 12, it starts to descend at Libra 6 p.m. And then at midnight, it goes into the underworld of like Scorpio and Capricorn. It tends to come up in Pisces to resurrect again in Aries in spring. That's how the sun on the ecliptic goes as it goes through its abode. It goes from Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. And then, of course, it goes all the way back to Pisces, to the feet, and reoccurs again in spring. So the year is always happening. But the day is always happening as well, because this akin to 6 a.m. Aries to Taurus, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Each one has 2 hours. So like in the Cancer Leo area, we have 12 o'clock, where noon, where the sun is shining at the highest part of the sky. But at the same time, we have that on a monthly cycle of summer where the sun is very strong. So if we take that on a soul individual level, we can pierce through it and understand that spiritually, that is referring to a spiritual phenomenon of soul growth, soul maturation, that our soul is born into the material realm and matures to a point of degree, begins to decline, only to be born again or to be resurrected into a new form. In the Upanishads, it said that the spirit of Brahman is always seeking new, fairer forms. It discards one form and goes to a more subtle, fairer form according to its actions in the realm of good and evil. See, the soul descended from the highest abode of purity down into the dimensions of pleasure and pain and good and evil, and everyone partakes in a certain sense of good and evil, or light and dark. And after these givings and happenings of charitable acts as well as trespasses take place, this is calculated and taken into the astral body. Everything is coded and enters into the astral body, and then that astral body is a matrix that plans the next physical effect that takes place. So every time your astral dimension, whatever is taking place in your emotions and your astral being, is going to crystallize in the physical dimension. It's only a matter of time. So you have to constantly be working with this dimension that you're in moment to moment, because even right now, you are existing within your astral realm, even if you're awake in the waking state. The third level of consciousness that people exist in is the another dimension that we exist in is the dreamless state. Now, this state of being is complete sleep, complete unconsciousness. When you're in the dreamless state, you're no longer having images or taking part in activities, but you're in a state of rest. You come to a state of complete motionless. This is, in a sense, in the tomb or something that like a cocoon, because when you increase your consciousness through the process of alchemy, and when you conserve your energy and do and follow your inner being, follow God's commandments, follow the highest truths that is set forth by the spiritual realm, then these faculties begin to unfold and unlock and blossom within you, so that this unconscious dreamless state becomes a state of awareness, and you enter the state of Satchitananda, which is consciousness, bliss, existence. And here is where you'll always keep your individual form, but it will now be crystallized from the cocoon of human life. Because Alvin Boyd Kuhn, in the book, The Lost Key to the Scriptures, he exposes how in the ancient writings, physical life and to be incarnated into this physical dimension was the death of the soul, that the soul, the spiritual entity, has to die in some way, degrade itself from its highest, more subtle form. And by doing that, it is sacrificed into a lower organism, the physical realm. And because the soul is immortal and can't die, this is the closest thing that we experience as death. So the mystery is that when we die in this physical realm on our last day of this life of the waking state, when we go to sleep to never wake up again, that will be our time of true life, because the true life will be after the cocoon period, because we're in a period of cocoon or gestation or fermentation in this realm, this womb. And these individual souls are incarnating their individual higher individualities by sacrificing their ego. Now, the ego is the natural manifested physical phenomenon, personality that's made in the first, it's the survival mechanism. And then you have the personality, which is developed in the first 7 years of being. So the spiritual individuality is working to use the ego, working to dissolve the ego and spiritualize the personality. This is the symbolism of the transfiguration of Jesus, when his light was shining like light. And this is how the sun, the inner sun, reacts in your body to make these conscious spiritual changes happen within you as you go on your life journey, because as above, so below. These anagological phenomena that are taking place in the heavens are also taking place within you on a deep soul level. So here, page 27 of Keys to Lost Scriptures, Plato himself said that men are placed in the body as in a prison. He even considered the body as a shelter of the soul. an idea that carried one step farther the ancient Egyptians' representation of the body, personalized in the goddess Hathor as the birdcage of the soul. That this imprisonment was equated with the idea of death to the soul is clearly expressed by Taylor, who, in commenting on the writings of Macrobius, writes, "The soul in the present life may be said to die as far as it is possible for a soul to die, occultly intimating that the death of the soul was nothing more than a profound union with the ruinous bounds of the body. To impart to the body its life by linking to it the soul's more dynamic voltage, nature exacted from the higher principle the planetary quantum of its life, to be offered as an oblation for the benefit of the lower order. So the body lived the death of the soul, as the soul died onto the life of the body, as Hercules would have put it. All this explicitly set forth in the apt parapsychology by Taylor, who in his select works by Porphyry says, what it here is said by Plato is beautifully unfolded by Olympiodorus in the MS commentary on Gorgias as follows: that to live is to die, and to die is to live, for the soul coming hither as she imparts life to the body, so she partakes through this of a certain privatum of life, but this is an evil. When separated, therefore, from the body, she lives in reality, for she dies here through participating in privatation of life, because the body becomes the source of evils, and hence it is necessary to subdue the body. So analogically, sons of God gave their life for the physical organisms to live. Because the body was considered a physical tomb, even the Egyptian word for body was soma or sema, meaning tomb. And we know that this tomb restricts the soul from certain abilities, but this restriction is to give us strength to understand the knowledge of good and evil. We bit the apple to incarnate into this dimension, and now we simultaneously live within the three realms of the waking state, the dream state, and the dreamless state. And once we acquire full knowledge of ourselves in these three states and uncover them, we uncover the truth, the fourth state, which is not really a state, but the producer of the three states, which is the witness. And each individual soul has their own individual witness. And this individual witness is the Krishna or the Christ. And this Krishna or Christ sustains our being and helps the individual soul reach its full potential to merge with the para-atman, which will then merge with the super soul and then live in the highest abodes of the Spirit of God, or Brahman, or the Father. Various names for this highest abode. So this is how the physical soul coexists in three different realities at once. And by navigating them and bringing conscious awareness to them, especially at the times before sleeping and waking, we have to bring all of our conscious attention to the moment right before we fall asleep, or the moment right as we wake up. Instead of just simply opening our eyes and moving when we wake up, we have to sit in the stillness and exist and bring consciousness to the point of existence that we are traveling in between these states of existences, because they're actually portals to different realms, different dimensions. We've always been curious and wanting to experience different dimensions and different realms, and they've been in front of us the whole time, always waiting for us to knock and the door shall be open, to listen, to watch, to be able to see that on a daily basis we can train ourselves to bring consciousness. In the Bible, Jesus is always telling us to keep watch and pay attention. It's in these moments of high alertness, of this, it's in these moments that we attain to these high states of consciousness and are able to be able to see the truth of the inner being for what it is, without being distracted by the limitations of the ego and the mechanisms of the physical body, because the urges, the desires, the thoughts, the emotions, the memories are all subduing the realization of the being. And once the body and the mind are subdued and all thoughts are brought down and subdued, then the spirit or the inner witness reigns supreme, and we become able to commune with that higher aspect of our being and see things from an archetypal level rather than just the realm of thoughts. So If we can bring conscious awareness from moment to moment in the physical waking state, this will consciously carry over to the realm of dreams, and we can begin to discriminate there and be able to extract knowledge, extract gnosis, extract valuable gems of information and bring them with us. And we need to document them and write them down as we wake up, so that throughout the years we have a streamline of astral events that have taken place. And we can analyze these astral events and see how they are reflected into our waking state. Once we investigate and become conscious investigators of how the astral realm is the cause of this physical realm and how phenomena are reflected in them, just like the moon, or I wouldn't say the moon is a source of its own light, but it does utilize the light of the sun as a source. I would say more like Pisces, the two waters, the sky of the water of the sky and the waters below, and how they reflect and how they're both seen within each other. And when we pierce into this dimension and become awakened to the astral realm, we can manipulate and consciously make decisions in the astral plane that will help us navigate and guide us in the physical realm, because we'll be able to be in contact with higher intelligences that are able to help us in our goal and our mission to manifest and bring down the spiritual qualities of our particular archetype down into the physical realm of Malkuth or physical incarnation to be carried out in action. So this is what life is about, a constant transmission from the causal realm to the realm of effects, from the invisible realm to the realm of the seen. And we have to, like in the Upanishad says, the soul is always traveling between the waking state, the dream state, and the dreamless state. And that the astral plane is the mid-garden or the separation of from the waking state, the mortal realm, the astral plane, and then the celestial spiritual sky, which is above that, the realm of the immortal spirit. So the astral plane is not the highest abode. And a lot of people mistake this to be the highest place to go. So just because we awaken in the astral plane doesn't mean that we've made it yet, because we still have to transmute that lunar body, the desire body, it's still considered a body of sin. The four bodies of sin are the physical body, the ego, the mental body, the astral body, because they all need to be spiritualized by the Christ. And when the Christ spiritualized these functions, that they're purified and taken to their higher form. So the lunar realm, that realm of those nightmares and those dreams that are nothing but desires and manifestations of light and dark without discrimination, we bring light into that and purify it and becomes a solar realm. So we have to solarize the astral body, solarize the mental body, solarize the physical body, solarize the energetic body by continually sacrificing for humanity, trial and tribulation to raise the chrism to its highest abode. Because as the Gnostics have taught, each time it raises a vertebrae, an initiation is conquered. We have to conquer something within ourselves to allow the energy to rise. And as the energy rises and reaches to the top, the blood of the Christ is shed and the blood is purified. But those existential spiritual bodies, which have their foundation in the physical body, are being purified by those spiritual essences and essentially becoming crystallized and permeated so that they could be of good use to us rather than just using them at their lowest levels. We have to bring that kinetic charge to them so that they can lift us to our highest levels of consciousness and they can actually be used. Because when the mental body's in full use, you can use your imagination and willpower as well as your mind to actually enter into a mental body and to independently move about and have activities without your physical body even having to move. It takes place in the mental dimension, which is the realm of thought, which is way more subtle and less laws than the realm of astral, of emotions. So these different dimensions of your being, these are what you're tapping into, and this is what you're trying to develop. You have to develop them with concentration, to understand, observe, to self-observe, and to always to reflect on your inner self as a spiritual being in a human body. And once this takes place, you'll be able to navigate in between these realms and create an interface between them so that the information flows correctly. As alchemists, we have the ability to investigate the states of consciousness that we are in on a day-to-day basis. We don't have to deal in just theories. We don't have to just think of things that are not related to our direct experience. Instead, we can bring our focus and our point to the events that take place as long as we've been alive. Every night when we go to sleep, it has been said that the soul or the astral body exits the body and explores the supernal, inferior, and superior dimensions of life. And we also experience a time of darkness and rest where we are not dreaming. We're told that dreams are just a movie that happens inside of our head, that are just something that the brain makes to entertain itself. Well, in ancient times and initiations, the sages knew that every time they went to bed was an initiation, that we're practicing for death. They said that sleep is the cousin of death. Sleep is the closest thing that we have in relation to being disembodied. We spend most of our lives not aware of these processes that take place, even though we spend a good portion of our life asleep. Because we are hypnotized in the waking state of this physical realm, we don't pay much attention to our dreams, and we let the dreamless state slip right past us. We question, what are the different causes and effects of our life? What are the things that set things in motion? We're going to be talking about the three states of existence, or the three dimensions of consciousness that we experience every day. And we're going to learn how to utilize these, like the alchemist laboratory tools, and how by investigating and becoming conscious of these three states of consciousness, we can recognize the fourth, or the fourth in what is separate of these three, which would be the self, the witness. We go through these three scenarios of dimensions in the same way we perceive the three gunas: sattva, goodness; rajas, passion; tamas, ignorance. I'd say always in three triplicities: waking, dreaming, deep sleep. When we're awake, we're going about our daily activities. We could be lost in daydreams or fantasies, or losing our train of thought. And our waking experience can be very automatic. So when we go to sleep, our dreams become automatic. They're reflections of the reality that took place in the physical realm, just replicated, changed around. If we experience trauma in the waking state, we'll probably have a traumatic experience in the dreaming state. And people get affected with night terrors their entire life if they've experienced trauma, because our activities in the waking state transfer over to the dream state. The only peace that one could receive be considered the deep sleep state. And currently, on average, the deep sleep state is like a darkness, or a dark non-experience without the mind. Now, we can utilize these three states of consciousness, recognize them as the eternal flow of the sine wave of manifestation, preservation, and then disintegration. Waking, dreaming, deep sleep. And each one of these has a purpose, and they're directly related to each other. It's just that because of the human ego that we're in, Sometimes we don't take a lot of time into questioning these states of consciousness that we experience on a day-to-day basis. If we bring awareness to understand that every time we go to sleep at night, we're going to be entering into a different dimension of our being, things come a little bit more interesting. A lot of the times we think that, we're just going to rest the body, rest the mind, lose consciousness. But the astral body departs from the physical body and experiences pastimes in the dream realm. Whether good or evil is based on the good and evil acts done in the waking state prior to the dream state, only to become overcome by the deep sleep state, in which there is no witness and the witness and the witnessed. And we bring in our waking state right now, which is the only state of being that we can actually make improvements and change things and use our discrimination. Once we do that in the waking state, it transfers over to the dream state. All of a sudden, we're bringing our discrimination to the dream realm. That's the goal of the alchemist, to bring the discrimination that we have in the waking state to the dream state, so that we can consciously navigate the internal planes. In order to do this, we have to check up on ourselves from moment to moment, while we're working, while we're conversating with our family, while we're doing our hobbies or playing music. Watch ourselves, become aware that we are in the waking state. Give a little jab to your hand or a little hop on your feet, try to fly. Exercise the part of your mind that is surprised that, wow, you're in a physical realm created by someone, that you have a purpose, that you're inside of a four-armed creature, the human body. That when you are speaking, there are words coming out of your mouth. Utilize this discrimination and become overly aware, overly self-conscious. When you step into a room, try this 2 times a day. When you get home from your duties or you wake up in the morning, look around your room in the waking state as if you've never seen it before. Create a shock inside of you, a shock of inspiration. So consider it like a ritual, because rituals are used to kind of get the psyche or ego out of its routine. A ritual completely changes your day-to-day behavior. Your subconscious mind can't make sense of it. Your conscious mind can't make sense of it. Your subconscious mind eats it up. Hence, a ritual will help you wake up the part of you that just thinks that, you just go to sleep to rest the body. You might have some dreams in the deep sleep, only to wake up in the waking to seek sense gratification, for example. We could bring our consciousness to these different dimensions of life so that we can bring our discrimination to the dream realm. And there we can get information about ourselves, about our purpose, about our being, about how to help heal ourselves and others, to learn to be able, the masters of guitarists, or even Walter Russell, he would sculpt in his dreams, he would write in his dreams, he would learn music and practice in his dreams. And then in the physical waking state, he would able to transfer that information into the waking state. And with the techniques that I'm providing here, we can also do that as well. You'll be in the dream state, and all of a sudden you'll be awake, conscious, and say, hey, I'm right by the store that I was when I was awake. Let me try to fly. Well, this time you will fly, but don't interrupt the process. Go with the flow. Don't refer back to your earthly situation. Become innocent and open-minded as a child, and allow yourselves to experience the feeling holistically, because if you get tied up in your ego, you'll lose the experience in where you wake up in the physical body. Once we take the consciousness in the waking state and the discrimination and utilize it, and it appears in the dream state, we can then enter the deep sleep state with awareness, because there's a difference between awareness and consciousness. Anyone can be aware. A shrimp could be aware, but is it conscious? Coral, aware, but conscious. You could be someone who can't even, someone that's very, has a problem in the brain that makes it so that they are very not, very not conscious. It could be, when you're in a coma, for example, but there's still awareness. So you see the difference between consciousness and awareness. Because in the deep sleep realm, you have awareness but no consciousness. But if we activate our consciousness in the waking state and the discrimination of that consciousness gives us, and we bring it to the realm of dreams, we can then bring that to the deep sleep realm. Someone who's transmuted their lead into gold never dreams, never sleeps, but always travels consciously in the astral plane and experiences the deep sleep as a supreme abode of conscious peace, Sat Chitananda. So in the waking state, this is where we have the discrimination and we're able to make changes. In the dream realm, if we're not trained, it goes automatically like a train moment. The scenes just pass by. We don't have a time to sit on the train and think. Because in the dream realm, things happen very fast outside of time. Whereas here we have the ability to practice and utilize the tool of discrimination and consciousness. What we do in this realm transfers into the dream state, in which you can experience various levels of dreams. If you have a nightmare full of desires and passions, fears, that's a hellish realm. When you're experiencing bliss, perhaps playing a god game of soccer, where you're playing soccer in the sky and can fly, or where you're flying on chariots with a beautiful bride, beautiful level of consciousness, living a glorious life in the higher planes in a dream. That's all up to what you did in the waking state to deserve that, because the law of exchange. Whatever you do here trickles on to the dream realm. Whatever you do in the dream realm trickles back here. Eliphas Levi explained that every time we go to sleep, if we are not going to sleep in the highest mindset of justice, peace, tranquility, love, wisdom, we could be going to sleep in ego, anger, frustration, darkness. And the thing about sleep is when you go to sleep, you come out back into the waking state, either more dark or more light. It all depends on how we end our day. The sine wave starts at Aries, finishes at Pisces, starts here, goes up, down, takes a low dip, and then rises for resurrection. In the same way, our dreams do that as well. At the ability of whether we rise or fall, and utilizing the high point of the sine wave or the bottom point of the sine wave. Or we're choosing to go to sleep with positive affirmations, an open heart, selfless service to humanity. Or are we going to sleep remembering our desires, remembering our losses, remembering our resentments, so that we fall deeper and sink darker? That's why the ancient Christians always practiced prayer before going to sleep and upon waking up. And the same reason how a lot of teachers and sages from the East practice a lot of morning chanting, or at night. They make sure that they do a lot of ritualistic practices to make sure that their peaceful transition from the waking state to the dream state carries over in a very positive way, because this is very important. So it's good to set up a good environment to know that you're going to sleep, that you are entering a different dimension, and to become conscious of this state between the waking and dreaming state, so that you can become conscious and awake during it. And once you reach consciousness, it is permanent. So what is the waking state? We wake up in Malkuth, the physical realm. I always like to say the earth is a realm, not a place. It's not a significant globe spinning through space at this particular time. It is a realm, the dimension of the waking state. We just happen to wake up in Malkuth, the physical realm. And we're either doing actions here in tamas, ignorance, rajas, passion, or sattva, goodness. When we come to the waking state, the first time we did this was when we're about 3 years old. We have the first dawn of I am consciousness, when we become awake and aware of ourselves as an individual, usually around the age of 2 or 3. It's our first bit of waking state. Then we exist in a very dreamless type state while we are also in that age frame, right? Because 0, 1, 2, 3, around 4, we start kind of getting more conscious, but we're in a mix between a little bit of waking state, very little dream state, and a more deep sleep. That deep sleep starts to decrease. The waking state starts to increase. And when we're kind of young, we have a real high access to the astral plane. We have a lot of energy reserved inside of us, a lot of potency. And because of that, we're able to consciously daydream, lucid dream. When I was a kid, I used to have a lot of fun daydreaming, practicing lucid dreaming, astral projection very easily. And as you grow older, in your teenage years, you lose those abilities, only to have to regain them through the science of alchemy. So we're here to regain these energies that we've lost, these talents, these unique abilities that we've lost. We need to have access to the carpet of Aladdin. We need to be able to fly on Aladdin's carpet. We need to be able to access our inner genie in the deep sleep realm and to ask questions and go to sleep and find answers when we wake up. We could go to sleep listening to a beautiful lecture and have the knowledge twist and turn in our brain and come out when we wake up with inspiration and knowledge put together with a new conclusion, a higher truth. But we have to have intention. It's good to apply a little ritual to your life. Make sure you recognize that when you go to sleep, it's a miniature death. You're going into the bodiless state. We sow seeds in the waking state and we reap them in the dream state. It's all about waking up in the waking state here and now. Because even though we're in the waking state and we're supposedly awake, we lose our train of thought. We fantasize. We daydream. We think about the past and the present. We're reactive. In fact, according to Jerdif, the fourth way shows that we're very much asleep. That from moment to moment, we're kind of like we're in the dream world. We just live with a little bit of discrimination. We can make the choice to increase that discrimination here in the waking state. Because you can, have a whole day where you just get up, go to work, come home, do this, do that, and then find out, hey, what happened the whole day? I don't even remember what happened. Well, that's because we have to utilize our consciousness and wake up here using our discrimination and willpower. The willpower is developed through the practices, through righteousness, through living a pure life, through concentration. We have to concentrate in the waking state to bring consciousness to the dream state so that we can start experiencing the supernal realms, heavenly realms full of chariots, bliss. We can talk to the gnomes, the fairies, the sylphs, the Udines, the angels, the principles. We can speak to our inner being. We can speak to God. But because we don't recognize that we're asleep, we still forget who we are at times and get lost in the conscious waking state, only to go into the dream world to get thrashed around by our desires and to lose our consciousness in deep sleep. Boom. Repeat, repeat, repeat. We activate the fourth, the witness. Krishna says he's above the waking, the dream state, and the dreamless. He's above sattva, rajas, gunas, for these states emanate from him. So too do we have an aspect of ourselves that are outside of these states. And if we recognize that we are beyond the witness, beyond the I am, beyond the screen, we are in the abode of the supernal creator, the supernal cause is within us. We can begin to remember who we are. This is how we begin to know thyself. Know thyself, meaning know your dreams. Write down your dreams in a journal. Get to know the deep sleep state. Become familiar with the darkness. The darkness, the mother. Actually, Santos is the white lights, the mother. Darkness would be Krishna. There's still things that we're told that we need to understand very thoroughly. The correspondences. So in a sense, we have direct access and conscious experience of these three states. This is the salt, sulfur, and mercury of the alchemist. This is what an alchemist or hermetis is investigating his entire life to purify these three states. One way to know is the fact that you're in the waking state right now. Just simply know, feel the feeling I am. We know that when we go to sleep, we'll either go into the deep sleep realm or have some time in the dream realm.
Develop an urge and desire to have more experience in the dream realm, to bring conscious awareness to the deep sleep, and to bring full discrimination to the waking state. And this is how we start to initiate ourselves into dream yoga, by simply having the intention and the actions to create the effects. We do this by investigating. We spend most of our lives without paying any attention to these. Through dream journaling, by every day when you wake up, whether you remember your dream or not, write down, I did not remember my dream today. Why? Because at least you're telling your subconscious mind that you remember having a dream, but you don't remember having a dream, but you know you did. Because you know that the soul always departs from the body at night to travel in the higher planes. But the body is not conscious enough to recall those experiences of the inner being. So by simply becoming aware of these three states, we begin to bring awareness into a part of our life that hasn't seen the spotlight, and changes begin to occur. We have to practice diligently. I always, a couple times poke your hand, do a jump, try to put yourself out of routine, wake up and do something different. Write in your dream journal that I remember that I had to, be specific about it. Everything that happened in the dream, whether it's small, big, insignificant or not, anything you can remember, you'll be able to read these, put them together in the future. So it'll be like an upcoming project. Here we go with some esoteric practices to help initiate this consciousness change. Every night, we could practice meditation, where we simply watch our train of thoughts. Do not get lost in them. Do not try to avoid them. Do not pick at them. Just simply watch the train of thoughts. Do not get lost in them, and simply just pay attention to the fact that you have a train of thought. And as you do this, the thoughts will begin to slow down, and there will be more space in between the thoughts. Begin to become conscious of not fantasizing, obsessing over events, past or future, or desires. A lot of people say, visualize what you want, desire, but visualizing and using imagination the wrong way can conjure up desires that don't need to be conjured. Save your energy. There's no need to fantasize about a scenario where we're arguing with someone and win the conversation, or obsessing over an event that took place 2 years ago, or worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. Something totally unexpected could happen. That's why Jesus says, don't worry about what clothes you eat or what food you should eat. Do not worry about tomorrow, for today brings enough. Look at the lilies in the field, no one attends to them and they eat fine. Look at the birds, who feeds them, and they're fine. We're humans and we have access to the infinite conscious intelligence. So when we begin to worry and obsess and fantasize, we lower ourselves. We're better than that, So these two practices will strengthen your consciousness in the waking state, allow you to become more vigilant, and this will slowly start to carry over into the dream realm, where you'll become fully cognizant. So the times between waking up, falling asleep, become conscious, and watch yourself go through these states. It'll be hard at first, but every day, just remember, I just woke up. Where was I? Who was I? When you're about to go to sleep, say, where am I? I am in the waking state. I'm about to go into the tomb of Osiris and resurrect into the flying body, basically, right? You're basically dying and resurrecting into another realm. Sleep is a miniature death. So now we're going to talk about how to get the body to shut down and activate the astral body consciously, so that when it takes off, you'll be along for the ride. Not that you're not along for the ride, but your consciousness will be aware of the experience and recall it, and not be overcome by that ignorance. So as you go to sleep, we can lie on our back. We can focus on our breath and begin to relax each part of our body, from every toe to every finger, everything one by one, slowly relaxing. Consciously focus on your breath and lull your body to sleep until your body becomes asleep. You should start to feel a vibration. At that time that you feel that the body is asleep, but the mind is vigilant, simply get up and walk up from your bed and take off. Now, if you're asleep and do this correctly, you'll be in the astral body. But if not, obviously you'll probably not really get up because you're just trying to do it invisibly. The trick is to just do it. Get yourself in the state of mind where you're very relaxed. Your body's almost numb, relaxed, tingly. Start to feel a vibration in your chest and head. Go with the flow, and then simply get up and go. So your mind will remain awake while the body will be asleep and will be able to be cognizant of the information that takes place when you take off to the other realms. You can actually discriminate and say, I want to go and learn this, or I want to learn this project or do this project, rather than just have an effect of a cause. I hope that this has been helpful to you. This is an introduction to dream yoga. And in the next time we talk about dream yoga, we will be going into exactly how these three states of consciousness all are happening simultaneously and are all connected. And in fact, you can experience all three states of consciousness here and now. We'll be going over that in part 2. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you have a blessed week.
Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing the art of dream yoga and how we can utilize our everyday consciousness to step outside of the train of thoughts, begin to observe them, and wake up from moment to moment, as Samael and Mayor would teach, as well as from the schooling of Jerdif and Uspensky. They verified that in the conscious waking state, we could actually utilize everyday moments to wake up. And what I mean by wake up is wake up here and now in the waking state, while we are going about our daily routines. This is the perfect chance for us to utilize all the circumstances in our everyday life to wake up and say, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? He called it subject, object, location. To kind of tap yourself on the wrist and say, hey, what's the subject of right now? What is happening? And say, like, I'm going to the store. Location, object, who is this going to the store? Someone going to the store. You are this individual with this story, this ego. So subject, object, and then location. Where are you? You're in your city, you're in the store, you're in the car, wherever you are, you're kind of honing in from the third perspective, kind of seeing where you're at in your waking state. And by doing this throughout the day and just making it a habit, ingraining this habit in your everyday activities, you'll begin to carry this over to when you go to sleep at night. You'll be able to wake up while you're in that state, going through like another dream that you would have just went through, woke up, forgot about. However, this time in the part of the dream, you actually end up doing the practice. It carries over into the night. And once that happens, you wake up and you start to tap yourself on the back and say, hey, what's going on right now? Where are you? And when you look around the dream world, usually you'll see that things are not the same. For example, if you try to look like a clock on the wall, it could be melting, or the hands would be moving extra fast, or perhaps you look at the floor and the floor begins to move or rise, or you feel a sense of falling. These are all red flags showing that you're in the astral plane. And this is another dimension that you actually go to when you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, the conscious mind shuts off, the ego, personality departs from the body, and dwells upon the inner realms, the inner Sephiroth, the inner different planes of existence. Now, normally, if we're unconscious, we go to a realm where we are not so sure what we're going to dream. And when we get there, we won't be able to discriminate between this world and the dream world. So the soul just goes there, as says in the Upanishads, the soul travels like a stream going from the astral plane and then back to the waking state, the astral plane and then back to the waking state. And then it goes back and forth between these realms, and each one reflects the other one. So this is the mysteries of Pisces, the mysteries of projection, the mysteries of understanding the separation between the witness and the perceived, as well as the dream state and the state of the waking state. When we're in the waking state, our I am consciousness transplants itself in the body. And if we become aware of ourselves in this exact moment between our deep sleep state or our dream state or being asleep and right when we wake up, if we can hone in on that exact precise moment and become cognizant of that moment, we can experience the realm of in between the astral plane and the conscious waking state. And this is, the universe has given this opportunity eternally every day to practice this, but we end up not utilizing these everyday occurrences and everyday opportunities that are given to us, even though they seem so mundane or so common. They're actually the keys to the supernal dimensions or the hidden realities. So dream yoga is the art of waking up in our dreams and becoming conscious of them, conscious that we are fully in a dream and not in the waking state. Therefore, you'd actually be conscious that you're in another body, a lunar body or an astral body that's outside of this physical body. So you'd be cognizant of being in another realm. So some mix this up with lucid dreaming, some with astral projection. So astral projection, lucid dreaming are actually different. Lucid dreaming, you're using your pineal gland to project on the screen of Brahman so that you can see in various activities. It's what your soul is capable of doing. It makes an internal virtual reality universe, becoming aware of manipulating an interior realm that you're creating and inhabiting. Astral projection is utilizing the higher vehicles of the soul that's actually able to transplant itself in the higher dimensions that are collective. So if that means if two people witness the same thing in the astral plane and they were both there, they would both see the same thing because it's more fixed, whereas your inner plane is more mutable. So astral projection is able to utilize the higher vehicles, in this case, the astral body, to literally travel into the different worlds and the other realms in which you are able to see things from a higher perspective, see your life from a more archetypal perspective. Things happen there without the stagnancy of time. The moments happen from moment to moment, but they kind of carry together in a way that's not in the same like fixed and discriminatory factor that is in the conscious waking state. Like right now, like if you boil a cup of tea, you have to heat the water up, the water boils, you get the cup, you clean it, you put the tea in it. But in the astral plane, it might just happen that one moment you're washing the cup, next moment, boom, tea's already done, drinking the tea. There's certain time lapse that, because everything goes into one and the other, sort of like the two fish, one chasing the tail. Things are more like more mutable essentially. So as children, we have a lot of this ability to be able to just fully be aware and consciously go to sleep and wake up in these interior planes. Simply daydreaming, you could end up finding yourself in like a flying vehicle or flying or jumping on clouds or doing some amazing feature simply by just thinking about it and just dozing off, combining your imagination with your will. The masculine will and the feminine imagination are combined to produce a state in which you slip into these different dimensions through that small state of being half asleep, half lucid. So you see astral projection utilizing these higher vehicles that when we had, when we're young, pure, and in our higher natures, we have access to these higher vehicles. And then through society and the lower nature and indulgence, we lose access as our nervous system gets kind of blunted. So we have to refine this nervous system through and wake up our pineal gland by practicing awareness from moment to moment. So that means like even when you wake up in the morning and you're about to start your morning routine, and even when you're consciously researching truth or knowledge, or you're going about, in a social way with your friends or your family, be sure to be the inner witness is constantly awake. And there's certain practices that you can do simply to wake up in the astral plane. For example, it's been told by many different practitioners to practice like poking your hand or simply look at your hand. Sometimes I stare at my hands and think how strange it is to, be in this body and be able to control these fingers and these hands, and how that kind of, what that feels like, go into the feeling of it without the attachment to the past memories. Or you could try to do a jump, semi-on, or you would say, hey, you're walking down the street and no one around, try to give it a little leap and see if you can fly. And if you fly, that means you're in the astral plane. But if you don't, then obviously you're awake here. And of course, in the moment, you'll think, hey, well, I know I'm awake, but hey, that habit must transfer over to the astral plane so that you end up doing it. And then you consciously wake up in the astral plane. So we wake up and we're in the I am. When we wake up in this waking state, we become I am. And we go about our day. We go to sleep and enter the realm of dreams where we lose the faculties of discrimination and then become more like an automatic mode. So we have to bring the consciousness from our waking state into the unconscious realm of dreams so that we could become discriminatory and be able to find and tune better experiences to help bring back information to the waking state of consciousness and make changes accordingly. Because in the astral plane is where the higher dimensions and the more subtle realities and beings are able to communicate with you. So I recommend everyone kind of study Rudolf Steiner, Knowledge of Higher Worlds, or Semi and We Were Dream Yoga, different aspects of that. So this does not have to necessarily happen where we're just going there and forgetting it. We can actually bring our consciousness fully cognizant there to that dream realm. So the astral plane is more real than the physical waking state. It's actually more closer to our real nature. This physical realm is more dense than the astral plane. It's a more subtle reality with less laws. When I say laws, I mean, like, for example, you can walk through things, you can fly, you become lighter. There's different things that you're just capable of doing. There's certain things that you don't have to do. For example, there's not like bones to break, things of that nature in the astral plane. So in dream yoga, you have to remind yourself throughout the day up to like 30 times, 10 to 30 times to check, are you dreaming or not? Regardless of what day of the week it is, what time of the day it is, just try to poke your hand, try to look at your hand, jump up and down, do something to try to see, because like in the dream world, your finger will go through your hand, but in the waking state, it won't. Or like if you look at your hand in the dream world, it'll start transforming, but in the waking state, it won't. Because the astral plane is more of a more mutable state of being. So one would want to be fully conscious of this process because there's more opportunity to receive divine knowledge there. And when we become lucid and conscious in these internal realms, we can teleport to the superior dimensions. There we can play and partake in the pastimes of the higher beings, the demigods, Krishna, Christ, archangels, all of the higher intelligent archetypal beings that are above like the ego personality centers of like physical beings, but the beings that are disincarnate or that are not incarnated. Some beings that have not even ever been incarnated. Some have been incarnated before, some haven't. But regardless, the more subtle realities have different types of activities and ways of being. And when we need to raise our consciousness up to those higher planes of existence to be able to match the frequency so that they can communicate with us, so we can bring that information down to the waking state and utilize those functions. Otherwise, our life carries out kind of in an unconscious way. Everyone receives help from these unconscious planes, from higher beings that look out for them, from God, from their inner being, but they're just not fully conscious of the process. So when we're practicing Gnostic esoteric practices, the Prisca theology or the ancient theology, we're bringing down these ancient practices and utilizing them so that every morning, every day, and every night, we're in a state of consciousness, a state of awareness. So that when we go to sleep, we know that when we wake up, we're going to have our dream journal. We're going to write whether or not we remember our dreams and what happened in that dream, so that little by little, we begin to formulate a stream of consciousness and awaken to this internal plane of existence that's been there the entire time. So, of course, the dream realm does not have to just be a frenzy of unconscious patterns that takes place in your waking state and then transforms into a drama of some sort in that realm of the dreams, where you're tempted of all kinds of things, or negative things take place, or nightmares take place, which is all connected to the lunar plane of the unconscious realm of existence. So your unconscious nature, that lunar realm, is where we keep getting sent to every night when we go to sleep. And when we utilize our consciousness, transmute our sexual force, and lift ourselves up to a higher state of consciousness through service, through chastity, through charity, through being a truthful, honest person, for trying to provide for your community, your family, your friends, like taking on the archetype of the higher demigods of the planets, the beautiful creation that this creator has bestowed upon all of the souls. So when we access this inner life and we become awakened little by little, we begin to develop different ways to wake up in those planes. And if you're really on the hunt for waking up, I utilize practices from the dream yoga, Gnostic teaching, Samael Weor, and the abilities from Uspensky and Jurdiv. One would be, ancient mantras, like you would say, like you would focus like Egypto, and then you feel that vibration in your chest, doing it 10 times. Inhale, and Egypto. So essentially waking up those higher centers. You can feel the vibration in that plexus that's connected to the astral body, where the astral body connects into those nerve ganglion. And when that vibrates, it awakens those little electrical nerves and helps you remember, wake up, and kind of vibrate the astral part of yourself, so that it could be in a state of charge, a state of awareness, a state of awakeness. And of course, keeping a dream journal, logging, even if you didn't remember a dream, still saying, hey, I didn't remember the dream I had last night. Being for sure that you're saying that you didn't remember what you made sure that you did have. That you had a dream, you just didn't remember it. So you're programming your subconscious mind that instead of thinking that you didn't have a dream, you're remembering that you did have a dream, you just forgot. And that in of itself is a practice that's helping you wake up to be able to remember. So once you are fully awakened in the astral plane, you'll be able to enter it even upon just sitting down, meditating, going into the astral plane. This is hard. It takes a lot of reoccurrence of innocence, energy, lots of willpower, lots of imagination. And once you are able to master this technique through the simple practices given, you're able to slip into these higher dimensions. So we'll be talking about like the mechanics of the actual leaving the body and astral projection as taught by the masters, and in part 2 of this particular video, the mysteries, the keys to the astral plane, and that will be more of the mechanics of how to do this. So that will be in the next video. Thank you. Bye.